Chapter 1. The Demon Pond. The day Min returned to his hometown, the air felt strangely heavy. The old paths of Thủy Lâm were still the same, red dirt roads winding between moss-covered cottages. Bamboo groves whispering as though they hid secrets of the past. At the very heart of the village lay a pond. The water was murky, dark green, stagnant, and deep. The villagers called it by one name only, the Demon Pond. As a child, Min had often heard stories. People who dared to wander too close would vanish without a trace. Beneath that surface, they said, countless souls lay imprisoned, never finding peace. But Min had always believed it was just folklore. Just the elders trying to frighten children. That evening, after putting down his bags, Min walked alone to the edge of the pond. The sky was dimming, the last rays of the setting sun stretched across the water, turning it a dull, bloody red. The bamboo along the banks swayed and rustled, though the wind was faint, like the sound of unseen whispers. Suddenly, a splash, "Tom!" echoed from the middle of the pond. Min startled, his heart skipping a beat. He looked around. There was no one nearby, yet the surface rippled violently, circles spreading wider and wider. For an instant, he thought he saw a pale, withered hand rise from the depths, clawing upward, before vanishing again. The ripples slowly calmed, leaving the water smooth and still. Cold sweat trickled down Min's back. He told himself it must have been an illusion, just a trick of his weary mind. But as he turned to leave, he felt it clearly. Something beneath that water was watching him, silently, waiting. Chapter 2. The Blood Legend. On his first day back, Min wandered around the village. The dirt road stretched ahead, flanked by a few old cottages whose thatched roofs were covered in moss. When the villagers saw him, they nodded politely but avoided his gaze, as though he carried something strange with him. As the sun dipped westward, Min stopped by a small roadside stall. It belonged to old Madame Nam, a frail, hunched woman, her wrinkled face half hidden behind the beetle she constantly chewed. Her lips were stained red, her clouded eyes staring off toward the pond in the distance. Curious, Min asked, "Grandma Nam, I've heard people call that pond in the middle of the village the Demon Pond. Why is that?" At once, she flinched. Her hand trembled, dropping the lime pot she held. She glanced around nervously, making sure no one else was near, before lowering her voice. "That's not something you should ask, child, but you are old Lou's grandson. Sooner or later, you'll find out anyway." She took a deep breath, her voice quivering like wind slipping through a crack in the door. Long ago, that pond was not a pond at all. It was a pit of blood, blood from slaughtered people. So much blood no one could count. Min frowned. "Blood? What do you mean?" Old Madame Nam let out a dry, broken laugh, revealing teeth blackened from years of beetle. Centuries ago, Thủy Lâm was raided by bandits. Men were butchered, women taken, children thrown into the pit, the living buried with the dead, corpses piled like a mountain. Blood soaked the earth. When the raiders left, the survivors dug a great hole to bury the bodies, and that hole became the pond. They thought it would bring peace to the dead, but it didn't. The hatred stayed, heavier with each passing year. The wind blew, making the bamboo leaves shiver, echoing her words like a mournful chorus. Min shuddered, imagining bodies stacked high, eyes glaring up from the depths in eternal rage. Since then, Madame Nam continued, every time the blood moon rises, someone in this village dies or disappears. They say that's when the souls crawl up to claim lives. The pond never dries, because it holds not water, but blood and restless spirits. She spat out her beetle, fixing her murky eyes on Min. "Listen well, don't go near that pond. It knows, it can sense those with weak spirits. It will call to them." Her words still echoed in his ears when suddenly, from far away, came a plop. Min turned at once. The murky water rippled, but no one was there. A chill wind swept by, stabbing into his spine. For a heartbeat, he saw it, a pale face beneath the water, eyes wide and glaring straight at him. He blinked. The vision was gone. Only the thin crescent moon quivered in the reflection. Min's heart pounded violently. Old Madame Nam's words rang on in his head like a curse. That pond holds blood and vengeful souls. Chapter 3. The Red Moon Night. That night, the full moon hung in the sky, but it was not the usual clear silver. It glowed a dim crimson, like a blood-soaked shroud stretched across the heavens. The entire village of Thủy Lâm sank into unease. Every household shut their doors tight, hanging talismans on the lintels, murmuring prayers under their breath. The elders warned their children, on a red moon night, do not step outside, and above all, never go near the pond. But Min, driven by curiosity, paid little heed. He tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. Outside, dogs barked mournfully, long and low like weeping. The wind swept across the old thatched roofs, sounding like faint cries. Through the window, the crimson moonlight slanted into his room, painting it with blotches like dried blood. Min licked his dry lips, deciding to fetch some water from the well. Yet as he stepped into the yard, he froze. From the direction of the pond came a strange sound, a voice calling his name in a whisper. Min, Min. The sound was distant, faint, sometimes clear, sometimes fading, but enough to raise gooseflesh across his body. His heart hammered, his steps faltered. He tried to reason, it must be an illusion. Yet his feet carried him forward of their own accord. Toward the pond, the dirt path was dark, lit only by the blood-red glow of the moon. The bamboo on either side swayed violently, though the night wind was weak. When he reached the bank, Min stopped dead. The pond's surface was not still, it swirled in circles, as if something enormous was stirring below. Suddenly, splash, water erupted. Min's eyes widened. From the middle of the pond, a figure rose, hair long and drenched, covering its face. Its skin was ghastly pale. Slowly, it lifted its head. The hair clung back, revealing a face with hollow, gaping eyes, black as endless pits. Min, the whisper came, not from its lips, but from everywhere, from the earth, the wind, and inside his skull. Min staggered back, terror flooding him, but his feet felt nailed to the ground. He couldn't move. The white figure in the pond raised its bony hand, trembling, as though trying to drag him in. The water surged higher, and more blackened hands burst up, thrashing, reaching, crying out. At that moment, a shrill scream rang out from the village. Min turned sharply. From a nearby house, lantern light flickered wildly, accompanied by frantic sobbing. People rushed out, shouting, "Someone's dead, another one's dead." Min felt the spell break. He stumbled back, fleeing, his heart thundering. But just before he left the bank, he glanced back one last time. The pond's surface was calm again, only the crimson moon reflecting. Yet in that fleeting instant, he swore he saw, beneath the water, dozens of pale faces, mouths open in grotesque laughter. Chapter 4. The Cry Beneath the Water. The death on the night of the red moon shook the entire village of Thủy Lâm. Whispers spread quickly. The demon pond had claimed another soul. The victim was a young girl, barely 17, named Han. At dawn, her body was found on the bank of the pond, her hair drenched, her eyes bulging wide, lips purple as if some unseen hand had dragged her down and then tossed her back ashore. That morning, Min followed old Lu to the funeral. Smoke from incense filled the air. The wail of mourning flutes pierced the heart. Villagers murmured, "She was such a gentle child. No enemies at all. It's the curse of the pond. Nothing else." Min stared at her portrait, his chest tightening with cold dread. Her pale face, those wide, frozen eyes, they looked exactly like the thing he had seen beneath the water last night. That night, Min could not sleep. The crying from the funeral still seemed to echo, carried by the wind into his dreams. He closed his eyes, but in his mind he heard it again, the eerie voice calling his name. "Min, come here, Min." He jolted upright, drenched in sweat. The moon outside was pale, veiled by dark clouds. Hoping to clear his mind, Min stepped out to the porch. But from the direction of the pond came a chilling sound, a faint cry for help. "Help me?" The voice was muffled, as though it came from beneath the earth. Min held his breath, straining his ears. Yes, there were cries, groans, like dozens of people drowning at once. Drawn by a force he could not resist, Min crept toward the pond. Mist lay thick over the surface, the stench of rot and blood rising in waves. He leaned closer, and his heart nearly stopped. Beneath the murky water, shadows writhed, pale arms flailing desperately. "Save us," the voices moaned, merging into one long, tortured wail. Unable to stop himself, Min dropped to his knees at the water's edge, reaching out. Suddenly, a cold, deathly hand shot up and seized his wrist. Pulling with terrifying strength, Min screamed, struggling as unseen hands clutched his legs, dragging him down. "Let go! Let go!" he shouted. In a frenzy, Min grabbed a rock from the bank and smashed wildly into the water. The hands vanished, but the pond convulsed, spinning into a dark whirlpool. From its depths, a howl burst forth. "Blood! Give us back our blood!" Min toppled backward, gasping, his heart hammering like it would burst. When he looked again, the pond was calm, reflecting only the wan moonlight. And in his mind a dreadful question echoed. Just how many souls are trapped beneath this pond? Chapter 5. The corpse rises. The next morning, chaos erupted in the village once more. Shouts and cries came from the direction of the pond. Jolting Min awake, he hurried out, following the crowd rushing toward the water's edge. In the murky depths, a body slowly surfaced, bloated and purple. Children screamed, women covered their mouths, and even the men could only stare. Trembling, the corpse was pulled ashore and laid upon the ground. It was Mr. Tin, the middle-aged man known in the village for his kindness, who just yesterday had been chopping bamboo to mend his roof. His body was grotesquely swollen, skin split and cracked as though about to burst. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly, his mouth agape as if mid-scream, yet only water and weeds spilled out. Strangest of all, his feet were bare, scraped raw, as though he had been dragged across the ground into the pond. An old woman collapsed in tears. "He was drinking with me just last night, how could this?" The crowd muttered in fear. "The pond has called him." Another soul taken. Min stood among them, his heart cold as stone. He remembered the hands that had seized him the night before. Was this how Mr. Tin had been dragged down? Suddenly, a young man shouted, "Look, there's something on his chest." Everyone stepped back. Sure enough, on the dead man's chest was a large, dark bruise, a handprint, huge and twisted, as though pressed from inside his body. Straining to tear out, silence fell. Only the sound of weeping and the wind rushing through the bamboo filled the air. At last, an elder whispered, his voice trembling, "It is the mark of the demon the pond has chosen." And he turned away, unwilling to see more. That night, Min sat in his small room, unable to sleep. The image of the bloated corpse, the hollow eyes, the monstrous handprint, these visions would not leave him. Outside, the wind howled. From the direction of the pond came a gurgling sound, "Awk, awk, awk," like boiling water mixed with the groans of countless drowning souls. Min clutched his ears, but still he heard the whisper. Sliding into his mind, "You will come down with us?" He sank to the corner of his bed, shaking, and in that moment, Min knew with dreadful certainty. The pond did not only hunger for lives, it wanted something more. Chapter 6. The Sealing Ritual. The horrifying death of Mr. Tin plunged the entire village of Thủy Lâm into panic. Women and children dared not step outside after dusk. Men gathered to discuss, but their whispers circled back to one single fear. The demon pond had awakened in wrath. Pressed by the terror of the villagers, Old Lu and several of the elders decided to seek out the region's shaman, Old Master Dao, who lived in a shabby hut at the edge of the forest. He was known for his skill in charms and incantations, said to have sealed away spirits more than once. That evening, under the purplish twilight, the whole village gathered at the pond's edge. The murky water stirred faintly, as though aware of what was about to unfold. Master Dao appeared, draped in indigo robes, holding a small bell, muttering incantations under his breath. Before him stood a rough wooden altar, on which were placed a rooster, white wine, incense, and a small ritual knife. The bell rang softly, incense smoke curled thick in the air, and the villagers stood in a tense circle, not daring to breathe. Master Dao slit the rooster's throat, catching its blood in a bowl. With that blood he drew strange symbols on yellow paper charms, then pasted them around the pond. His voice rose, heavy and commanding. "Rest, restless souls, demon of this pond, return to your place." Suddenly, the water erupted in waves. Wind shrieked through the bamboo, rattling the leaves as though screaming. The pond bubbled furiously, great bubbles bursting with sharp pop sounds, like choked sobs. An old woman clutched Min's arm, whispering in terror, "It won't accept, it won't accept." Then, from the center of the pond, came a chorus of dreadful cries, wailing, screaming, voices calling for help, all blending together like hundreds of throats being strangled. Many villagers collapsed in terror, their faces ashen. Master Dao shouted, shaking the bell violently, flinging the bowl of blood onto the water. A cloud of thick black smoke rose, coiled upon itself, then scattered and vanished. Slowly, the pond calmed, the surface becoming still once more. The villagers exhaled in relief, murmuring thanks, but Min did not. He stood staring at the pond, his chest heavy, for in that brief moment, he had seen a pair of burning red eyes flash up from the depths, locking directly onto his. That night, the village thought peace had returned. But at midnight, as the wind seeped through the cracks of his window, Min heard it again, whispering from the direction of the pond, "Blood, more blood, it is not enough." And with that, Min realized, the ritual had not appeased the demon, it had only enraged it. Chapter 7. The Girl in the Pond. After the sealing ritual, Thủy Lâm village tried to resume its daily rhythm, but fear still lurked in every corner. Fewer people went to the fields at night. No one dared leave their homes. The air felt thick, as though an invisible hand was gripping the entire village. Min himself could not rest. Since the night of the ritual, he had been plagued by nightmares. Each time he closed his eyes, he found himself standing at the edge of the pond. The murky water bubbled, and from within, a girl appeared. She wore a long white dress, soaked and clinging to her frail figure. Her skin was a sickly pale, her long hair covering most of her face. Only her eyes, large, glistening with a despair so dreadful it pierced through him. In the dream, she stretched out her trembling hand toward Min, her lips quivering, her voice faint and broken. "Help me?" But just as Min moved forward, that delicate hand transformed into a black, clawed talon, icy cold, seizing him and dragging him into the water. He thrashed and screamed, then woke, drenched in sweat. At first, Min thought it was only a dream, but as the visions returned night after night, his unease grew. The next morning, he confided in old Lu. The elder's face drained of color, his hands trembling so much he could not even lift his pipe. "The girl in the pond," Lu muttered, eyes staring blankly ahead. "She has chosen you, she is calling you down as her replacement." Min shivered. "That girl? Who is she?" Old Lu shook his head, silent for a long moment, before whispering hoarsely, "Long ago, a young woman was sacrificed by the villagers to seal the pit of blood. They say her spirit never departed. Whenever she appears to someone, that person rarely lives long." The words pierced Min's heart like knives. He remembered the girl's desperate eyes in the pond, and now everything made sense. That night, when the pale moon hung low, Min once more heard the faint whisper drifting from the pond. "Min, come here, save me." Unable to resist, he stepped onto the porch. The bamboo leaves rustled in the night wind, sounding like muffled sobs. Mist clung to the water's surface. And then, right in the middle, she appeared again, exactly as in his dreams. She looked at no one else, only at Min, her eyes filled with sorrow, her trembling hand reaching out for him. For a moment, Min felt his soul pulled into her gaze, a gaze overflowing with pain and a plea for salvation. He did not yet know that from that instant, his fate was forever bound to the vengeful soul of the girl in the demon pond. Chapter 8. The Ancestral Curse. Ever since seeing the girl in the pond, Min had grown increasingly restless. The whispers haunted him, and each time he gazed upon the water, her shadow flickered, half real, half illusion. He knew he could no longer live in ignorance, he had to uncover the truth. The next morning, Min rummaged through the old wooden chest in old Lu's house. Inside were yellowed family records, brittle papers barely holding together. Among them, he found a note scribbled hastily in fading ink. "To keep peace, the Lu family must guard the secret. The soul is bound, but our blood must pay the price for generations. If not, the demon pond will open, dragging the entire village into hell." Min froze. The words cut into his mind like a blade. He hurried to ask old Lu. The elder sat silent for a long time before sighing, his voice trembling. "Since you've read it, I cannot hide it any longer. That pond was once a pit of slaughter. When the hatred burst forth, the villagers panicked. The shaman of that time decreed that a virgin must be sacrificed to seal it. They chose a girl from our family line. Min's breath caught. From our ancestors? Old Lu nodded, his cloudy eyes glistening. They bound her, drowned her in that pit. Her cries of agony shook the whole village. From then on, the pond grew quiet, but her spirit never ascended. Our bloodline was cursed, each generation. One descendant would be called by her. No one escapes. The elder's words struck Min like thunder. He recalled the sorrow in the girl's eyes. Her outstretched, trembling hand. Now everything was clear. If she has chosen me, then what will happen to me? Min asked, his voice quaking. Old Lu said nothing. After a long silence, he finally whispered, "You carry her bloodline. She will not let you go. Unless another takes your place." The air in the room grew suffocating. Outside, the bamboo groaned in the wind, carrying a faint stench of iron and rot. Min sat in stunned silence, his thoughts spinning. He realized then, the girl in the pond did not only cry for help. She demanded justice bought with blood, and the one chosen this time was him. Chapter 9. The Night of Nox. That night, thick clouds smothered the moon. The entire village lay under a suffocating darkness, broken only by the faint glow of a few oil lamps flickering weakly in the cottages. The silence was oppressive, pressing down on every roof. Min lay awake, his mind echoing with old Lu's words. Each generation, one is called. She has chosen you. The wind whistled through the cracks of the house, sharp and eerie. Then suddenly, cock, 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 a knocking sound rang out. At first faint, then clearer with each beat. Min shot upright, listening intently. The sound wasn't like the wind, nor like someone rapping at the door. It seemed to come from far away. Yet each knock echoed distinct, like fingertips tapping against water. One after another. Cock, cock, cock. His blood ran cold. The knocking grew steady, rhythmic, as though calling to him. It came from the pond, drawn by a force he could not resist. Min grabbed an oil lamp, draped a coat over his shoulders, and stepped into the yard. The village was silent as a grave. Only a dog barked weakly in the distance, its cries hollow. He walked slowly, step by step, toward the pond. The closer he came, the louder the knocks became. Cock, 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 as if dozens of hands tapped the surface in unison. The water rippled unnaturally, reflecting the lamp's glow into jagged, broken streaks. Min's breath caught in his throat. He stared into the pond. And then he saw them, pale fingers breaking the surface. Skeletal and dripping, tapping in rhythm, dozens of hands, gray and shriveled, clawing upward, beckoning him. His heart pounded, his limbs locked. Suddenly, between those hands, a girl's face rose. Her hair hung wet and tangled across her cheeks. Her lips bluish, her eyes black voids. Her mouth moved, though the voice came directly into Min's mind. "Min, come down?" The words pierced him like ice. His vision blurred, his body tilted forward. He nearly stumbled into the water. At that instant, a withered hand seized his shoulder, yanking him back. "Don't look, turn away." Old Lu's voice, trembling yet fierce. Min collapsed onto the ground, drenched in cold sweat. When he lifted his head again, the pond was smooth, empty, no hands, no face. Only the bamboo swayed, whispering secrets into the night. Old Lu's chest heaved, his eyes clouded with terror. The knocking is an omen. Each time it sounds, another soul must be taken. Min trembled, a dread surging deep within. Someone else in the village was about to die. Chapter 10. The One Who Returned from the Darkness. After the night filled with eerie knocks, the village of Thủy Lâm sank deeper into dread. Whispers spread quickly. Another death would soon follow. No one dared to go outside after dark. Children were forbidden to approach the pond at all. But what terrified the villagers most was not death. It was the return of one who had vanished long ago. That evening, when the sun still lingered faintly in the west, a staggering figure emerged from the forest. At first, the children thought it was a stranger passing through. But as the figure drew closer, the entire village froze in shock. It was Dung, the man who had disappeared 3 years earlier while fishing on the demon pond. Back then, they had only found his broken boat drifting by the reeds. His body was never recovered. His family had long since erected an altar, mourning him as dead. Yet now, he had returned, but he was no longer the same. His body was gaunt, his skin pale as a corpse. His hair hung wild and matted, his clothes ragged and dripping wet, as though he had just climbed out from the depths. His eyes were glazed, vacant, staring through everyone. His young wife burst into tears and rushed to embrace him, but the moment she touched him, she shrieked. Cold. His body is cold as ice. The villagers murmured in fear, some retreating, muttering under their breath. Impossible. He died long ago. It's a ghost? A ghost returned? Dung said nothing. His empty eyes roamed the crowd, until they locked on Min. He stared for a long moment before turning away, walking slowly, directly toward the pond. Old Lu's face turned ashen. He shouted hoarsely, "Don't let him near the pond." Several young men rushed to restrain him, but to their horror, despite his frail frame, Dung's strength was monstrous. He flung them aside with ease, his face still blank, though a flicker of ferocity burned in his gaze. Amid the struggle, a child cried out, "Look, there are letters on his back." All eyes turned. Across Dung's back were sprawling purple bruises, forming twisted symbols, characters eerily similar to the talismans Master Dao had once used to seal the pond. But these marks were warped, seared into his flesh as though carved out by something from within. Suddenly, Dung threw back his head and let out a guttural cry, his voice no longer human. "Blood? Give back the blood?" He convulsed violently, collapsing to the ground, body thrashing uncontrollably. Villagers screamed and scattered in terror. Min stood frozen, his heart hammering, as a whisper brushed his ear. He did not return alone. He carries the darkness of the pond within him. Min's chest tightened, dread clawing at his soul. He knew then, Dung's return was not salvation, it was the herald of a greater disaster to come. Chapter 11. The Corpse That Breathed. After Dung collapsed, chaos swept through Thủy Lâm. The villagers dragged him home, binding him tightly to a wooden post, not just to restrain him, but to keep whatever dwelled inside him from breaking free. All night he lay still, cold as stone, his breath gone. Many believed he was truly dead. At dawn, his family decided to prepare for burial. The villagers gathered, grief mingled with fear. Master Dao was summoned, clutching his incense and muttering under his breath, "This body is unclean, it must be buried quickly, or disaster will follow." A coffin was brought. Several strong men lifted Dung's body and placed him inside. But just as the lid was set down, a sound chilled everyone to the bone. "Kook, kook," a hoarse, rasping cough from within. Gasps erupted. The coffin thudded as something struck from inside. "Tin, tin, tin?" His young wife screamed. "He's alive. He's still alive." The men pried the lid open. What they saw turned their blood to ice. Dung's eyes fluttered open, glazed and milky, his chest heaving faintly. His lips, blue and cracked, trembled as he rasped, "The water, so cold?" The crowd recoiled. Someone cried out, "He's supposed to be dead. That's no man anymore." Master Dao flung a talisman onto Dung's chest, chanting furiously, but the paper burst into flames the instant it touched his skin, turning to ash before their eyes. Dung suddenly lurched upright, skeletal hands gripping the coffin's edge, eyes rolling back, his breath ragged like a beast. Then, shockingly, he laughed, a harsh, rasping laugh that clawed at the villagers' ears. "We are not dead. We breathe with the water. We live in the blood." Then he collapsed once more, falling limp to the floor. The villagers dared not approach, their faces twisted in horror. Min, standing frozen among them, locked eyes with Dung's motionless face. And in that instant, he saw it, Dung's lips twitching into the faintest, most sinister smile. A dreadful realization gripped Min's chest. The pond did not just swallow lives. It returned them, no longer human, but something else. Chapter 12. The Blood Pond. After the horror of the corpse that breathed, the people of Thủy Lâm sank deeper into despair. No one dared go near Dung's home. Children burst into tears whenever they passed by, and the villagers turned their faces away as though his family carried a plague. But terror did not end there. At dawn the next day, as mist still clung to the ground, a woman fetching water ran back screaming, the pond has turned to blood." The villagers rushed to the bank. Min pushed through the crowd and froze. The water was no longer its usual murky green. It had become a deep crimson, swirling and bubbling like a cauldron of boiling blood. A nauseating stench of iron and rot filled the air. Dead fish floated belly up across the surface, their eyes bulging, mouths gaping in silent agony. An old man fell to his knees, voice shaking. "It is an omen, blood will spill in this village again." Panic spread. Families began packing hurriedly, intent on fleeing, but as they reached the village paths, they found flocks of black crows perched atop bamboo and trees. Hundreds of them, cawing hoarsely. The birds circled overhead, blocking the roads as if warning them not to leave. Standing at the edge, Min's eyes widened in horror. Within the crimson waters, he glimpsed faces, pale, distorted, surfacing only to twist into hideous grins. Their eyes rolling white, their mouths brimming with blood. He staggered back, his heart pounding, when a whisper brushed his mind, the voice of the girl in the pond. Weak, but clear. "The blood, not enough, more is needed." Min collapsed to his knees, his ears ringing, his vision darkening. In that moment, he saw her clearly, the white-clad girl rising from the center of the blood-red pond, her hand reaching out toward him. Behind her, hundreds of souls writhed, their eyes blazing scarlet, their mouths gaping in endless screams. Old Lu rushed forward, dragging Min back, shouting, "Don't look, leave this place. The blood pond is a curse, the great calamity is about to descend." The villagers scattered, but in their hearts they all knew. Thủy Lâm had been swallowed whole by a curse from which there was no escape. Chapter 13. The Whisper in the Night. That night, after the pond turned to blood, the entire village of Thủy Lâm lay shrouded in dread. Every household barred their doors, plastered talismans across thresholds, and kept oil lamps burning through the night. Yet the dim flames did little to push back the suffocating darkness. Dogs howled, their cries long and mournful, blending with the wind rattling through the thatched roofs. Min lay wide awake, unable to rest. The images of the blood pond haunted him, the faces surfacing, grinning grotesquely amid the crimson water. And then, in the silence, he heard it, a whisper. At first faint, like wind slipping through a crack. "Min, Min." He sat upright, listening. The whisper grew clearer, the voice of a young woman, trembling, choked with sorrow. It was not from outside, but inside his very skull, as though someone were murmuring directly into his ear. "Save me, it hurts, so cold." Cold sweat drenched Min's body. He knew at once, it was her, the girl from the pond, the soul sacrificed long ago. But this time her voice carried not hatred, but desperation, like a plea for salvation. Min stammered into the dark. "What do you want me to do?" The whisper went silent for a moment, then returned, weak but sharp as knives. "Give back the blood, justice, for me." Suddenly, the room grew icy. The flame of the oil lamp flickered wildly, then went out. In the suffocating darkness, Min saw her, a blurred figure at the foot of his bed. Her hair hung wet, dripping onto the floor, her hollow eyes fixed on him. He could not breathe. The girl lowered her head, whispering again, "You will be the bridge between me and the blood?" Then a deathly cold hand pressed against his chest. Min screamed, leaping from the bed. The lamp flared back to life, light flooding the room, but she was gone. Only damp patches remained on the floor, as though someone dripping wet had walked through. Clutching his chest, Min gasped for air. This was no illusion. The spirit was drawing closer. Step by step. Outside, the blood pond rippled in the dark, echoing with murmurs, hundreds of voices whispering all at once. Chapter 14. The Ancient Temple. After the night filled with whispers, Min knew he could no longer remain idle. He decided to seek out the only place that might hold an answer, the ancient temple on Cam Hill. A half-day's walk from Thủy Lâm. The villagers rarely mentioned the temple. It was said to be the site where the old charms that once sealed the demon pond were kept. Now, it was abandoned, save for one old monk who lived in seclusion like a shadow. At dawn, Min left quietly. The path to the hill was winding and muddy, lined with dense bamboo groves. The wind that rustled through them sounded like faint sobs. The further he walked, the colder the air grew, as though unseen eyes were watching from the thickets. At last, the ancient temple appeared amid the mist. Its tiled roof sagged and was coated with moss. Statues of Buddha cracked and worn. Incense ashes scattered across the altar. The bell tower loomed above, silent except for the harsh cawing of crows. Inside the main hall, Min found the old monk, thin, stooped, his eyes clouded with age. He sat motionless, like a statue, but as Min knelt before him, the monk's hoarse voice broke the silence. "You have come, I knew this day would arrive." Min trembled, his voice unsteady. "Master, please tell me, who is the soul in the pond? Why does she keep calling me?" The monk sighed, his clouded eyes heavy with centuries of sorrow. "That pond is a gateway between the living and the dead. When blood was spilled there, it opened, swallowing souls. To seal it, your ancestors chose a virgin sacrifice. But her spirit was too strong. Bound yet unyielding, she became a demon, filled with hatred, demanding justice. And you are the descendant of the family who drowned her. It is only natural that she seeks you." Min's breath quickened, his hands clammy. "Is there any way to save me, and the village?" The monk fell silent for a long while, then answered, voice grave, "There is but one path. You must find the blood relic of the sacrificed maiden, buried deep beneath the pond, and use the blood of her descendants to dissolve her rage." But he stopped, his dim eyes suddenly sharp. "Blood for blood. If the ritual is done, either you, or one of your bloodline kin, must die." Min's chest tightened as though crushed. Before his eyes flashed the pale face of the girl in the pond. Her blood-red eyes, her lips whispering his name. At that moment, the temple bell tolled, its sound heavy and mournful, reverberating across the hill, not as a prayer, but as an omen of death. Chapter 15. The Gate of Hell. After leaving the ancient temple, Min's heart grew heavy. The monk's words echoed like funeral bells in his mind, to quell the vengeful soul. The blood relic must be found, but blood must pay for blood. That night, Min could not sleep. The wind howled through the bamboo, carrying with it moans as if from beneath the earth. From time to time, he heard wet, dragging footsteps outside the porch. But whenever he opened the door, no one was there. Near midnight, the ground began to tremble faintly, as though something vast was stirring below. From the pond came strange sounds, guttural growls, drawn-out wails, and cries like those of the damned. Families awoke, clutching their children, too terrified to look outside. Min and old Lu rushed to the bank. What they saw made their blood run cold. The surface of the pond churned violently, frothing and boiling. At its center, a black fissure opened, deep and endless like a gaping maw. From it, skeletal arms thrust upward, clawing desperately, only to be dragged back down again. Not only arms, grotesque shapes, half human, half beast, writhed and screamed within the darkness. The stench of blood and rot choked the air. Some villagers fainted, collapsing on the spot. Old Lu fell to his knees, whispering in terror, "Heaven help us, the gate of hell, it's opening." Just then, a shriek tore through the night. At the far end of the village, a young woman was being dragged from her house, though no one touched her. Her nails scraped bloody lines in the dirt, her screams shattering the air. But an unseen force pulled her toward the pond. Several young men rushed forward to hold her back, but the force was monstrous. They were flung aside like leaves in a storm. The woman screamed until her voice broke, then was pulled beneath the churning red water. The whirlpool spun, closed, and swallowed her whole. Silence followed, the pond stilled. But in that final instant, Min saw it clearly. A pair of blazing red eyes staring out from the fissure, burning like coals in the dark, fixed upon him. His heart seized, breath ragged. The gate of hell had been unsealed. And he understood, unless the curse was broken, Thủy Lâm village would soon be dragged entirely into the abyss. Chapter 16. The Confession. After the night the gate of hell cracked open, Thủy Lâm village was paralyzed with fear. No one slept. Children cried through the night. Women clutched them tightly, while the men huddled in the communal hall, whispering in trembling voices. In that suffocating air, Elder Hua, the most respected of the village's elders, suddenly asked to speak privately with old Lu and a few other seniors. His face was pale, his eyes sunken with exhaustion. At last, he let out a heavy sigh and spoke words that made every heart freeze. "I can no longer keep this secret. The truth is, it was our ancestors who brought this calamity upon us. The hall fell silent. Old Lu's eyes widened, his voice shaking. "What are you saying? We are victims of this curse. How could it be?" Elder Wa shook his head, tears glistening in his dim eyes. "No, victims were only the beginning. Long ago, when bandits came to plunder, our forefathers did not resist. Instead, they captured dozens of innocents, women and children alike, and cast them into the blood pit to beg the spirits for protection." Gasps and cries of disbelief broke out. Min felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. Elder Hoa's voice trembled as he went on. "And that was not all. To seal the pit, they chose a virgin from the Lu bloodline. They bound her and drowned her with their own hands. They believed one life would save the village. But instead, it birthed a curse. Since then, the pond has demanded lives without end." Old Lu shook violently, his lips moving soundlessly. Min sat frozen, his heart pounding as fragments of memory flooded back, the cries in his dreams, the girl's desperate eyes, her sorrowful whispers. Elder Wa covered his face, sobbing. "Our ancestors were not heroes. They were murderers, willing to sacrifice the innocent to save themselves. And now, we, their descendants, are paying the price." The communal hall sank into dreadful silence. Outside, the wind screamed through the bamboo, sounding like the wails of 100 souls. Suddenly, Min heard a whisper at his ear, though no one stood near. "Now you see, your blood has long since stained the pond. It is your turn to repay it." His whole body trembled, drenched in sweat, but amid the terror, something hardened within him. His eyes lit with grim resolve. If this was the sin of his bloodline, then he must be the one to end it. Chapter 17. The Children's Souls. After Elder Hoa's confession, Min could no longer find peace. Night after night, he dreamed of horrors, dozens of children, thin and frail, their wide eyes staring, their tiny hands reaching out for help, their mouths opened in soundless screams as they were hurled into the blood pit. The cries haunted him even when awake. At first, they were faint, like echoes in the wind, but each night, they grew clearer. One night, when the whole village cowered behind locked doors, Min awoke to the sound of children sobbing outside his porch. At first, he thought it was only his imagination, but the crying did not stop. It grew sharper, more pitiful, sometimes mingled with soft, broken words. "Mama, it's so cold? Save us." Min's blood froze. Trembling, he lit an oil lamp and stepped out. The village lay in darkness, smothered in mist, but the cries pulled him, step by step, toward the pond. When he reached the bank, the sight nearly made him drop the lamp. Dozens of children sat along the water's edge. Their bodies were thin, their clothes in tatters, hair dripping wet. Their pale eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Some wept softly, others simply stared blankly. One child looked up, his hollow eyes shining, lips purple, his little hand reaching toward Min. "Uncle, save me?" At once, all the children turned their heads, dozens of glowing eyes fixed on him. Their sobs warped into shrill, eerie laughter, piercing and inhuman. The pond roared, frothing as small hands burst up from the surface, clawing, scraping, pulling mud onto the bank. The stench of rot and blood filled the air, thick and choking. Min stumbled back, heart pounding, but in that instant he understood. These were the souls of the children sacrificed by his ancestors, cast into the pit, never buried, their spirits bound forever in torment. Their laughter dissolved back into wails, mingling with the familiar whisper of the girl from the pond. "Do you see? Not only me, but these children too, wait for justice and blood." Min collapsed to his knees, tears streaming. The sight tore him apart. Fury swelled within him. If this curse was not broken, these children's souls would wander forever, and the village would be consumed. Just then, a dreadful sound echoed from the pond. Cock, 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 the knocking. Loud and relentless, lasting until dawn. When morning came, the villagers heard it too. They wept openly, for they knew another life would soon be taken. Chapter 18. The Night of the Living Dead. After the night Min witnessed the children's souls, fear in Thủy Lâm grew unbearable. No one dared to sleep, for every time they closed their eyes, they heard children's cries or the steady knocking from the pond. That night, the sky was moonless, the wind wailed endlessly, and mist swallowed the village whole. Min sat inside old Lu's house, restless, when suddenly shouts erupted outside. "Run! The dead are walking!" Min's heart jolted. He rushed out with the others. At the small graveyard at the edge of the village, the soil trembled, graves split open, the earth cracked, and one by one, swollen, purple corpses clawed their way out. They were no longer human, yet not entirely ghosts. Their eyes glowed white, their bodies twitched unnaturally, and their mouths groaned in guttural tones. They staggered upright, swaying, and began lurching toward the village. Screams erupted, families slammed their doors shut, clutching their children, but the living dead seemed drawn by an invisible force. Banging against doors with rotting fists, hissing through cracked lips, Min, along with several young men, seized sticks and rushed forward. He shouted, "Don't let them into the village." They struck the corpses hard, but the bodies did not flinch. Some collapsed only to rise again. Limbs twisted, one had its arm snapped, dangling uselessly, yet it still dragged itself forward, teeth gnashing. In the chaos, Min suddenly recognized them, those faces, the ones who had disappeared into the pond. There was Mr. Tin, there was Han, and among them, Dung. Dung's body swayed as he walked, eyes milky, skin pale, but unlike the others, his lips curled into a grotesque smile. His voice rasped, harsh but clear. "All will return to the pond?" From the pond came a deep rumble. The water churned, stinking of blood. At that sound, the corpses turned in unison, their movements stiff but purposeful. Step by step, they marched back toward the pond. No one dared stop them. Villagers stood frozen, trembling, watching in horror as the dead shuffled past. At the water's edge, one by one, they waded in. The crimson surface opened wide, swallowing them whole. Bubbles rose, burst, then vanished. Just before he sank, Dung turned. His eyes glowed red, his mouth stretching into a grin filled with mud-stained teeth. He laughed silently at Min, then disappeared beneath the water. The pond stilled once more. The villagers stood in silence, their faces pale. They understood. The pond was reclaiming what it had taken, and preparing for something far worse. Chapter 19. The Sacrificed Lover. After the night the dead returned to the pond, Thủy Lâm village was shattered. No one dared to speak loudly. The villagers only wept, murmuring prayers, waiting for the next life to be claimed. But Min could not rest. Dung's twisted smile before sinking into the water haunted him. Worse still was the whisper that followed him relentlessly. "They offered me, do you know?" That night, she appeared again in his dream, the girl in white. She sat at the pond's edge, her drenched hair clinging to her face, her shoulders trembling. When Min approached, she lifted her head, her eyes glistened with tears, her lips bluish as she spoke in a voice broken with grief. "I once had a lover." Min froze, listening. "Long ago, I loved a young man in this village. We swore beneath the bamboo, dreamed of leaving this cursed place. But when raiders came, the villagers lost their minds. They listened to the shaman's words, they bound me, drowned me in the blood pit. And he stood there, watching me die." She sobbed, her wail carrying across the night. The pond behind her swelled, waves crashing, as if the water itself shared her agony. Min's chest tightened. He asked, "Your lover, who was he?" The girl said nothing. Slowly, she reached out a deathly cold hand, pressing it against Min's chest. Her eyes bore into him, blazing with hatred. "Your blood, it is the same as his. You are the descendant of the one who betrayed me. I will never forgive." Min staggered back, his mind spinning, the fragments pieced together in horror. Not only had his ancestors sacrificed her, but the one who had once vowed to love her was from the Lu bloodline. The girl suddenly laughed, a shrill, broken laugh that split the night like tearing bamboo. "A love betrayed, a blood sacrifice? My blood has been spilled, and now yours will follow." The pond surged violently. Behind her, countless shadows writhed, their mouths open in endless screams. Min fell to the ground, his throat tightening as if bound by invisible cords. Her whisper slid into his ear, cold as the grave, "You will be the last lover, buried with me in the demon pond." Chapter 20. The Rising Shadow. After learning the truth of the betrayed lover, Min felt as though he were falling into an abyss. He could no longer tell dream from reality. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw her, sitting at the pond's edge, her hair dripping wet, her eyes burning with hatred that pierced into his heart. That night, strange noises spread through Thủy Lâm. At first came the familiar cock, 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 the dreadful knocking. Then it changed, groans, wails, and screams like the cries of the damned. Children wailed, dogs howled, women clutched their children and prayed. Min and old Lu rushed toward the pond. What they saw froze them in terror. The water boiled, glowing red, and at its center a colossal fissure tore open. From within, black smoke surged upward, and countless skeletal arms clawed their way out. Not only arms, shapes half human, half demon writhed, their faces twisted in agony, their screams shaking the ground. The stench of blood and decay suffocated the air. Villagers collapsed in despair. Some fled, only to be seized by the shadowy hands that rose from the depths. Screams were cut short as they were dragged into the crimson water. Swallowed whole, Min stood frozen, his body trembling. From the fissure, a giant shadow rose, towering above the pond. Its body was formed of mud and blood, its face shifting between human and demon, its eyes blazing like burning coals. Its mouth gaped wide, unleashing a roar that shook the heavens. Old Lu fell to the ground, his voice breaking. It's him, the shadow of ages past, the demon gatekeeper, awakened at last. Min's breath caught, his chest crushed by an unseen force. The monster's stench washed over him, icy, suffocating, reeking of blood. In his mind, her voice rang again, clearer than ever, blending with the demon's roar. You cannot run, your blood is the key, for me to be free. The earth shook violently, houses splintered, bamboo snapped, and the villagers screamed as the black smoke spread across the land. The shadow loomed taller, spreading its arms wide, as if to engulf the entire village. Min trembled, yet deep in his eyes, a spark of determination lit. He understood, if this shadow was not stopped now, Thủy Lâm would be swallowed whole. Chapter 21. The Possessed One. After the shadow rose from the pond, Thủy Lâm village plunged into chaos. Houses lay in ruins. Many villagers had vanished without a trace. On bamboo walls, rooftops, even tree trunks, there appeared deep claw marks, like those of some monstrous beast. But the most horrifying thing was what Min began to realize: he himself had been marked. During the day, he often glimpsed her, the girl in white, lurking in reflections, in the water jar, in the window pane, even in the shadow at his back. Each time he turned, she vanished, leaving only the stench of mud and blood. At night, the whispers never left his ears. You belong to me? You will sink with me? Min's body grew weaker by the day. His skin turned pale, his eyes hollow. Dark bruises appeared on his wrists and ankles, as though bound by invisible ropes. Each morning, he awoke to find his clothes soaked through, though no rain had fallen, as if he had just risen from the pond. One evening, old Lu found Min sitting motionless on the porch, his eyes blank, his lips muttering, "The water, so cold, take me down." The old man shook him violently, chanting protective incantations, until Min shuddered and returned to himself. But in his eyes still lingered a strange emptiness, half human, half something else. In desperation, Min sought the ancient temple again. The old monk, upon seeing him, shook his head and sighed deeply. The spirit has already entered you. The pond's hatred has bound itself to your soul. From this day forward, each step, each breath, belongs to it. Min collapsed to his knees, pleading, "Master, save me. Is there no way to break free?" The monk closed his eyes for a long while before speaking. "There is one path, but it demands sacrifice. Either you offer yourself as its vessel, or another of your blood takes your place. If not, your soul will be devoured. You will become the key to open the gate of hell." Min's vision blurred, his heart sinking. At that moment, the girl's pale face flashed before his eyes, her gaze aflame with hatred. And in that chilling instant, Min understood, he was no longer merely haunted. He was becoming part of the demon pond itself. Chapter 22. The Isolated Village. After the shadow's awakening in Min's possession, the people of Thủy Lâm sank into utter despair. Many families packed their belongings, desperate to flee the cursed land. But when they tried, they discovered every path was sealed by forces beyond human understanding. The dirt road leading to the town was suddenly blocked by fallen trees. Though no storm had passed, Ancient bamboo trunks had snapped and crisscrossed unnaturally, forming a wall as high as a house. Men swung axes to clear them, but the moment the blades cut deep, the gashes closed up as if the wood had never been touched. Those who tried the forest shortcut were swallowed by a suffocating fog. A group of young men ventured through but soon returned, faces pale as corpses. Trembling, they stammered that inside the fog they had seen strange figures walking toward them, faces white as paper, eyes blank, staring silently until the youths fled in terror. The small bamboo bridge over the stream at the village's edge also vanished. The once shallow brook now raged like a flood, roaring with unnatural force. When the villagers tried to throw logs across, the current swallowed them whole. Worse still, within the foaming water, they glimpsed black hands groping upward, grasping at anyone who dared step close. It became clear. Thủy Lâm was sealed. No one could leave, no one could enter. At night, flocks of black crows covered the sky, their cries hoarse like funeral chants. Dogs howled endlessly, and from the pond came the steady knocking, cock, 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 echoing through the four corners of the village. In the communal hall, old Lou sat slumped, his cloudy eyes glistening with tears. His voice quivered. The demon pond has locked this village tight. It means to consume us all. Min sat in the corner, his face hollow, wrists dark with bruises that dug deeper each day. In his ears, her whisper never ceased. No one escapes, all will sink with me. Outside, the wind screamed, heavy with the stench of mud and blood. Thủy Lâm had become a prison in the grip of the demon pond. Chapter 23. Buried Memories. Since the village had been sealed off, Min could no longer sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, he fell into dreams that were not his own. No longer whispers, no longer the girl in white, but memories of the past. In the dream, Min stood in Thủy Lâm as it had been centuries ago. The village was aflame, bandits storming through, slaughtering indiscriminately. Screams tore the air. Blood ran through the dirt streets in crimson streams. The scene shifted. Under a red moon, the survivors gathered in the village courtyard. At the center was a great pit, the very place that would become the demon pond. Corpses were piled high, eyes bulging, mouths frozen mid-scream. Children wailed as rough hands seized them and hurled them into the hole alive. Min shouted, but no one heard. He realized he was witnessing the memories of his ancestors, the horrors they had wrought. Then came the girl, beautiful, trembling, her face pale with terror. She was bound in coarse rope, dragged toward the pit. Around her, villagers gathered. Some wept, others shouted, their eyes wild with desperation. Sacrifice her, if not, we all die. At the front stood a man of the Lu bloodline, Min's own ancestor. His face was grim as he gave the command. The girl's eyes burned with despair as she was pushed down into the pit. Her screams split the night. I will return. Your blood will pay. The dream shattered. Min woke drenched in sweat, only to see his hands and clothes soaked with mud and blood. Though he had not left the house. Outside, the wind howled, carrying a faint, mocking laugh, and in his ear, the whisper returned. Now you see, the sins buried in your blood, and you will continue them. Min's body shook, but tears streamed down his face. The truth was undeniable. His ancestors had committed an unforgivable crime. The curse was no accident, it was the price of blood. Chained through generations. Chapter 24. The Broken Seals. After Min witnessed the buried memories, despair weighed heavier over Thủy Lâm. The villagers clung to a fragile hope, the talismans Master Dao had placed around the pond during the sealing ritual. They believed those strips of yellow paper were the last barrier keeping the demon at bay. But that hope was shattered. One evening, dark clouds gathered without warning. The wind roared, the air thick with the scent of blood. The pond churned violently, bubbling as though it were boiling from within. The talismans pasted along the banks trembled, then suddenly burst into flames, burning to ash. Terrified screams rose. Villagers scattered. Master Dao staggered forward, his face pale, shouting hoarsely, "Impossible! I sealed them with rooster's blood, how could they burn?" His words were drowned out by a violent gust. From the pond, blackened hands surged upward, seizing the remaining talismans and tearing them apart. The flames flared brighter, and the ashes fell into the crimson water, which roared with laughter. An eerie voice echoed, sharp as shattered glass. Talismans? You think paper and blood can bind me? The earth shook. Thick black smoke erupted from the pond, coiling like giant serpents, lashing around trees and roofs. Bamboo snapped, tiles shattered, cries of terror filled the night. Min was thrown to the ground. The familiar voice pierced his skull. Stronger than ever. No seal can hold me. Only your blood will feed me. Old Lu collapsed to his knees, weeping, his voice broken. It's over, the seals are gone. Nothing can stop the demon pond now. Min's fists clenched, his chest heaving. He knew then, the final barrier was gone. The demon was free. Chapter 25. The Phantom Beneath the Mud. After the seals were destroyed, the pond grew more restless than ever. The water no longer lay still, it churned and frothed constantly. Bubbles rising and bursting with the stench of rotten blood. One evening, Min and several young men went to the bank to check the situation. Suddenly, the ground along the edge began to bulge and ripple, as though something was crawling beneath the mud. The men froze, their eyes fixed on the shifting earth. From the mire, a pale hand burst forth, caked with slime and weeds, clawing violently. Then, slowly, a figure pulled itself free, a phantom wrapped in dripping mud. Its twisted face contorted, eyes bulging white, mouth stretched unnaturally wide as it let out a shrill, metallic laugh. The young men screamed and fled. Min stood rooted to the spot, his body rigid with terror. The phantom's eyes locked onto him, and from its throat came a rasping shriek. Your blood? Give me your blood? Its body shuddered, chunks of mud falling away to reveal something even more grotesque. Dozens of human faces embedded across its torso. The faces opened their eyes and mouths, some sobbing, some laughing, some screaming, all trapped together in a single monstrous form. Min staggered backward, tripping over a root, crashing onto the ground. The phantom lunged, its slime-coated body slithering forward. The stench of death smothered him. A freezing hand clamped onto his throat. In that instant, Min saw one face among the many more clearly than the rest, the face of the girl in white. Her eyes bled tears, her lips moving soundlessly. You are mine? The hand tightened. Min gasped for air, vision dimming. At that moment, Old Lu and several men rushed in with torches. One flaming brand was hurled straight at the phantom. Fire caught the mud, crackling and hissing. Acrid smoke filled the air. The phantom screamed, a hideous wail that shook the bamboo groves. Its form writhed, retreating toward the water, before finally sinking back into the pond, leaving behind only a boiling froth of bubbles. Min lay collapsed on the ground, trembling uncontrollably, but he knew this was only a fragment of what lurked beneath the mud. The demon pond was far from revealing its full horror. Chapter 26. The Sacrifice. After the attack of the phantom beneath the mud, the villagers of Thủy Lâm gathered in the communal hall, their faces pale, their eyes empty with dread. No one dared to deny the truth anymore. The demon pond had awakened completely. Amid the despair, Master Dao spoke, his voice trembling but firm. There is only one way left. To calm it, a life must be offered willingly as a sacrifice. If not, the pond will devour us all. The hall erupted in cries of panic. Some fell to their knees, shaking their heads violently. No, we cannot repeat the sins of our ancestors. To kill again is to damn ourselves forever. Master Dao slammed his staff to the floor, his voice hoarse. This is no choice. Either one dies, or all perish. But this time, it cannot be an innocent. It must be one of the bloodline that once betrayed her. All eyes turned toward Min. He sat in silence, his heart crushed. The girl's whisper filled his ears, cold and merciless. It is your blood I want. Yours? Then, suddenly, a frail figure rose. To everyone's shock, it was old Lu. His cloudy eyes glistened, his body trembling, yet his voice was resolute. Enough. Our family caused this evil. Let me pay the debt. I will be the sacrifice. Min sprang up, grabbing his grandfather's arm, shouting desperately. No, you can't. If anyone must pay, it's me. Old Lu laid his wrinkled hand on Min's cheek, tears streaking down his face. You are still young. Your life cannot end here. Let me finish what should have ended long ago. That night, by the blood-red pond, the ritual began. Master Dao prepared the altar with incense, wine, and a rusted ceremonial knife. Old Lu donned white robes, knelt at the water's edge, and prayed in a trembling voice. The wind howled, the pond churned violently. Voices rose from the depths, wailing, howling, demanding. The blade was drawn. Old Lu lifted his face to the sky, his voice ringing clear despite his tears. The ancestors sinned, let me repay. Spare our children. Blood spilled into the pond. At once, the water foamed, then slowly calmed. The cries faded, the surface smoothed. The villagers wept, believing peace had been restored. But Min fell to his knees, his soul breaking. His only family was gone. From the depths came a whisper, softer than breath, yet sharp as a knife. This blood is not enough. Yours will be mine. Min's tears flowed, his fists clenched. He understood. His grandfather's sacrifice had only bought time. The true price had yet to be paid. Chapter 27. The Night of Screaming Rain. After Old Lu's sacrifice, Thủy Lâm village fell into an uneasy calm. The pond grew still, its surface no longer glowing red. People dared to hope the curse had ended. But Min could not believe it. Every night he still heard her whisper in his ears. That blood was not enough. Yours is what I want. The fragile peace lasted only 3 days. On the 4th night, the sky grew heavy. Winds howled, thunder rumbled, and then a torrential rain fell, pounding like war drums. But instead of washing the pond clean, the rain turned its waters a deeper red, bubbling like a cauldron of boiling blood. Lightning flashed, illuminating a horrific sight. Figures rising from the pond. They were no longer ghosts, nor merely corpses. They were twisted beings, half human, half demon, their skin rotted, their eyes glowing red, their mouths stretched into grotesque laughter. Their shrieks pierced the storm. Villagers wailed, bolting their doors, clutching their children, but the rain beat mercilessly, and soon fists pounded against their walls. Bloody handprints smeared across wood and bamboo. Min ran into the storm. Gripping a torch, he shouted into the roaring rain, "Leave them. If you want blood, take me." A flash of lightning revealed her. The girl in white stood upon the pond's surface, her long hair whipping wildly in the storm, her eyes blazing crimson. She raised her arm, pointing straight at him, her voice mingling with the rain's fury. "You are mine. Your blood will open the gate." Behind her, the colossal shadow surged up again, its roar shaking the heavens. Rain lashed down harder, staining the village paths crimson. Min's heart pounded. He understood. His grandfather's sacrifice had only delayed the inevitable. What the pond demanded was his blood, the blood of the betrayer's descendant. That night, amid the storm's howls and the screams of both living and dead, Thủy Lâm drowned in chaos. The rain fell like blood from the sky, and the village became a battlefield between the cursed and the damned. Min clenched his fists, teeth gritted. He knew the final reckoning was near. Chapter 28. The Blood Ritual. After the night of the screaming rain, Thủy Lâm lay in ruins. Roofs were torn apart, bodies and livestock scattered, the air thick with the stench of blood and mud. The villagers gathered, trembling, their hope nearly extinguished. In the communal hall, Master Dao stood with hollow eyes, his voice grim. "There is no more time. The demon waits only for blood to open the final gate. To seal it again, there is but one way left, the blood ritual." The villagers recoiled in horror. Some fell to the ground, wailing, "No, we will not repeat our ancestors' sins. To offer blood is to invite the curse anew." But Master Dao struck his staff hard against the floor, his voice hoarse and fierce. "This is no choice. The ritual demands not the innocent, but the bloodline of betrayal. Only their blood can lock the gate again." All eyes turned to Min. He sat motionless, his chest heavy as stone. The whisper filled his ears, cruel and insistent. "It is you, only you." An old woman wept. "If the boy dies, who will carry on our family line?" But Master Dao's voice cut sharp. "If he does not die, there will be no family left to carry on." That night, by the bank of the Crimson Pond, the villagers built the altar. Incense smoke curled into the stormy sky. On the altar lay wine, chicken, and an ancient rusted ceremonial blade. The wind shrieked, as if heralding what was to come. Min knelt at the altar, his face set, his eyes hollow but resolute. The blade was lifted. The chants began. The pond churned violently, voices wailing from its depths. Just as Master Dao raised the knife, the pond erupted. Waves crashed, spraying blood-red water onto the bank. A shrill, mocking laughter echoed across the village. Blood? I will take it myself. You have no power to choose. The water roared. A colossal shadow rose once more, its eyes blazing red, its roar tearing through the night. Behind it, countless vengeful souls surged upward, howling, clawing, yearning to cross into the world of the living. The ritual was broken. The villagers screamed, scattering in terror. The altar toppled, offerings spilling into the mud. Min remained on his knees, staring into the monstrous shadow, his hand clutching the blade. He understood then. The demon pond would not wait for sacrifice, it would claim his blood by force. Chapter 29. The Final Battle. The demon pond roared like a storm. The colossal shadow towered above the crimson water, its body formed of mud and blood, its blazing red eyes burning like hellfire. Its roar shook the earth, toppling roofs, snapping bamboo, shattering the village into chaos. Villagers fled in terror, their cries drowned by the thunderous voice of the demon. Black arms shot from the water, long as tree roots, seizing those who ran. Screams pierced the night, cut short as they were dragged into the depths. Min stood amid the horror, clutching the rusted ceremonial blade. His body trembled, his ears filled with the whisper, no longer faint, but thunderous. Your blood will set me free." Blood trickled from his nose and mouth. His strength waned, but within his heart, something burned brighter. He remembered old Lu's sacrifice, the weeping children's souls, the villagers' despair. With a hoarse cry, Min raised the blade. "If blood must fall, it will be by my hand, not yours." He slashed his palm, letting blood spill onto the churning pond. The water hissed, boiling as the demon shrieked in agony. But it did not fall. The colossal arms lashed out, seizing Min, bones cracking beneath the grip. He gasped, choking, yet his grip on the blade did not falter. With a final surge of strength, he drove the blade into the demon's forehead, where a dark fissure split its form. A deafening explosion shattered the night. Crimson light burst skyward. The shadow convulsed, cracks spreading across its body as mud and blood burst apart. From within, hundreds of vengeful souls tore free, howling as they rose into the storm. Min was flung to the ground, blood streaming from his body. Through his fading vision, he saw her, the girl in white, standing before him. Her eyes, once burning with hatred, now glistened with sorrow. She whispered softly, "You have repaid the debt?" Her figure dissolved into crimson mist, vanishing into the night. The shadow gave one final roar before collapsing, shattering into fragments of mud and blood that sank into the pond. The water churned, then slowly stilled. The storm ceased, the sky cleared, the pond lay calm, reflecting only the pale moonlight. The villagers emerged from hiding, their faces pale with awe and grief. They knew the battle was over, but the price had been unbearable. On the bank, Min lay still, his palm bleeding, his face serene. He had given everything to end the curse. Chapter 30. The demon pond sleeps. After the final battle, the storm cleared. Dawn's first light broke through the clouds, washing Thủy Lâm village in a fragile calm. The pond lay still, its surface no longer crimson, but a dull green, reflecting the pale morning sky. The villagers gathered at the bank. Their faces were gaunt, eyes swollen from weeping. No one spoke. They only stared at Min, lying motionless by the water's edge, his body soaked in blood and rain. An old woman knelt beside him, her trembling hand brushing his face. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, he saved us all." Master Dao staggered forward, his eyes hollow, voice hoarse. "The blood ritual is complete. The souls have been freed. The gate of hell is sealed once more." But the price was his life. The villagers bowed their heads, sobbing. They lit incense, their prayers drifting with the smoke over the pond. Suddenly, the water rippled gently. For a fleeting moment, the figure of the girl in white appeared upon the surface. Her face was no longer twisted with hatred, but serene, her eyes glistening with tears. She gazed at Min's body, whispering softly, "You kept your promise, now I can rest." Then she vanished, leaving only the calm reflection of the sky. The villagers buried Min by the pond. On his gravestone, they carved the words, "He who sacrificed himself, so that the demon pond might sleep. From then on, the pond never claimed another life. No whispers in the night, no knocks, no wandering dead. The village slowly returned to life, though none ever forgot the horror they had endured. Every year, on the day Min fell, the villagers gathered at his grave, burning incense, murmuring prayers. May the demon pond sleep forever. May no one ever pay the price again. Yet sometimes, on stormy nights, when the wind tore through the bamboo groves, a faint whisper seemed to drift across the water, calling his name.